to you and educate and enlighten you about the current topics. We have done it for the COVID-19 impacts on many topics, but today our topic is central policies for the benefit of grassroots. Before I will come to the topic, I would like to inform that today we are celebrating International Literacy Day. International Literacy Day came into existence to make people aware of the importance of literacy, which is amongst the basic human rights. 8th September was declared International Literacy Day by UNESCO on 26th October 1966 at 14th session of UNESCO's General Conference. It was celebrated for the first time in 1967. Its aim is to highlight the importance of literacy to individuals, communities, and societies. Celebrations take place in several countries. Some 775 million adults lack minimum literacy skills. 1 in 5 adults are still not literate, and 2/3 of them are women. 60.7 million children are out of school, and many more attend irregularly or drop out. International Literacy Day, ILD 2020, will focus on literacy teaching and learning in the COVID-19 crisis and beyond, with a focus on the role of educator and changing pedagogy. We are also celebrating today World Physical Therapy Day. World Physical Therapy Day is observed on 8th September every year to provide an opportunity for physical therapists from all over the world to raise awareness about the important contribution of the profession and in improving the well-being and health of the people. This year, the focus is on rehabilitation and COVID-19. And today, we are also celebrating the feast of the Nativity of the Blessed Mother Mary. Our greetings to all on this auspicious occasion. Now I am coming to the main topic, and that is the central policies for the benefit of grassroots. Government schemes in India are launched by the government to address the social and economic welfare of the citizen of the nation. These schemes play a crucial role in solving many socio-economic problems that beset Indian society, and thus their awareness is a must for any concerned citizen. The central government has launched many new schemes for the development of the country and the residents. They are Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, PM Kisan, that is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Scheme, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Man Dhan Yojana, PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan, New Jal Shakti Ministry Jan Dhan Yojana, Skill India Mission, Make in India, Swachh Bharat Mission, Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, Sukanya Samriddhi Scheme, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Hriday Scheme, PM Mudra Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, Prime Minister Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Amrit Plan, Digital India Mission, Gold Monetization Scheme, Uday, Startup India, Setu Bharatam Yojana, Stand Up India, Prime Minister Ujjwala Plan, National Mission for Clean Ganga, Atal Bhujal Yojana, Prime Minister Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situation, PM Cares, Arogya Setu, Ayushman Bharat, Umang, Unified Mobile Application for New Age Governance, Prasad Scheme, Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spirituality Augmentation Drive. The implementations of these schemes are the responsibility of district administration. The district is the principal administrative unit below the state level, responsible for the implementation of almost all the center and state level schemes. It is a unit of administration covering most of the departments of government. The municipalities, Nagar Nigam, block and village level bodies are generally executive in nature, while the district level body mostly has a coordinating and supervisory role. In most of the central schemes, funds are devolved to district through corresponding states. Many a time, funds stuck at state level due to various political and administrative reasons, and district administration feel crunch of funds. Even in schemes in which funds are directly transferred to district administration from center gets delayed and the scheme lost its significance and development work get halted or delayed. India's progress will not be as fast as it could be and needs to be until government at the center and the states change their approaches to development and implementation of policy. Today, as we all know, the central government is forming the policies, but the implementation parts are the state government as well as the district administration. And unless these policies are not reaching to the grassroots, the advantage of the policies are lost. Today, to discuss about the central policies benefit to the grassroots, we have a very elite panel, and I would like to introduce my first guest. He is Dr. C.V. Ananda Bose, IAS. Dr. Bose is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. Dr. Bose is the chairman of Indian Red Cross, Kerala. He was the principal secretary, Animal Husbandry, Forest, Environment and Wildlife. He was the chairman of Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA. Dr. Bose has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nirbhiti Kendra Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant. And our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi called him man of ideas. Before I will ask him to say anything, first of all, Dr. Bose, congratulations. You have been elected yesterday only as the chairman of the Red Cross Society of Kerala. Very congratulations and greetings from all of us from Gyan and Organ Donation India Foundation and all the medias who are associated with us. Now, Dr. Bose, I would like to know from you the topic which we are going to discuss today, the central policies benefit for to the grassroots. Dr. Ananda Bose, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Bose, please tell us about your views about the central policies benefiting to the grassroots. Dr. C.V. Ananda Bose, please.
Right, it said, people get the government they deserve. Once Churchill was asked, which is the best form of government? He asked a counter question, to which country? Alexander Pope said, forms of government, let fools contest. That which is administered best is the best. I think as far as a common man is concerned, that which is administered the best is the best. Now in this yardstick, measured with this yardstick, where does the government of India remain? I don't mean the present government of India alone. The government of India since independence, and also the state governments, the district administration, the Panchayat Raj institutions. All these together constitute government in this country. It is very true that government's development activities is like a tree held together by both hands of government, but whose roots refuse to enter the soil. There is a disconnect. There is a disconnect between the policy and its implementation. You know, it is Lester B. Pearson, the former Prime Minister of Canada, who said, "It is easy to frame a constitution, but difficult to make it work." That is precisely what is happening in this country. I know, with the vast experience of our Captain Pillai, who is here, who has been dealing with this idea for the last so many years very successfully. I don't know how to go into the details of that. What happens in the Indian context? Government has policies and programs and schemes which are meant to ameliorate the lot of the people in every field. But most people do not even know that such schemes exist. When I say most people, I'm not making a rhetorical exaggeration. In 2011, an official study was made to assess the impact which has been made by the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. 72% of the villages for whom this was meant, they did not know that such a scheme existed. And now, always agriculture farmers clamor for higher price for their produce. The minimum support price is announced by government. You know, among the wheat growers, hardly 12% avail of this minimum support price. There is a lot of disparity between government's programs and its acceptance or its reach among the end user. That is a fact. Now, there are many reasons for this. First of all, before running down government, this is a government which is now fighting coronavirus bravely to the appreciation of the entire world. We have been able to do great things. So the general elections for this country, my friend Qureshi, who was once the chief election commissioner, he said this is an Indian election is an unacknowledged wonder. Yes. And we have a great history, the Indian administration, the Indian government, the bureaucracy, right from top to bottom. We have a great track record of combating malaria, polio, HIV, and now, of course, COVID. And when the entire nation was to be fed, we had buffer stock everywhere here. Our public distribution system worked very well. Our public health system worked very well. So we cannot run down a country whose democracy, whose administration has stood the test of time. But the fact is a fact. We have excellent planning. Yes, even when, during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, it is PC Mahalanobis who is the father of Indian planning. When they launched it, John Mathai, who was the finance minister, he resigned. He said there is no need for a planning commission when there is a finance ministry. Now, at times, you also feel so. See, when Modi ji came, he scrapped the planning commission and put in its place a revised outfit called Niti Aayog. Our planning is excellent, nobody can doubt. But between planning and execution, there is a lot of leakage. There is leakage in the conduit. And as somebody said, it is like a cricket match, you know. In the dressing room, you plan out a lot of things. But what happens in the field is something different. That is what is happening in India. We are good at planning, but in execution. Why? Because planning is centralized. Now, of course, the Panchayat Raj, decentralization is there. But as Mr. Goel has rightly pointed out, most of the schemes and plans are made at the Government of India level. Then it percolates at state level, then to the district level. Once it reaches a district level, I think there's a lot of leakage which has already taken place. There is less of monitoring than what is required. See, it is not that schemes are bad. There is a plethora of schemes, multiplicity of schemes. I was in charge of agriculture in the Government of India. A lot of great schemes are there. Then the schemes, similar schemes are there in the state. Put together, I think Captain Pillai will be able to say, there are hundreds and hundreds of schemes which not only the farmer, even the administrator will not be able to comprehend. So there is a change that is required. And what is the answer? I do not want to take much of your time. There are answers to this. Yes, it is not that we cannot tackle the situation and there is no need for losing hope. There is a disconnect. The Information and Broadcasting Ministry was created not by this government, but from earlier governments. Their function was to reach to the people. What are all the great schemes launched by the government? But can you honestly say that department has functioned well? Well, throughout the years, so many governments have come and gone. So there is a lack of connect between government and the people. It is this lack of connect which has to be rectified. Yes, a lesser number of schemes. I was working for some time in the Department of Atomic Energy. There, Homi Papa used to say, find the scientist and build your laboratory around him. You find the beneficiary, build the schemes around him. Instead of telling him this is a package, instead of giving him a menu which he does not understand what he wants and create a scheme around him. That is a way, but it's not a very easy way, because we cannot compare this vast country with, pinhead-sized countries like Sweden. We compare ourselves to Sweden, then to Switzerland and UAE, and say why India has failed. India is a subcontinent. The size is there, but still there are solutions. Proper planning is required. Decentralized people's planning has to come in place. Not only in words, the planning has to be done at the grassroots level. Implementation has to be decentralized. Monitoring has to be centralized. There should be a central planning and monitoring unit. Monitoring unit is required. And people like Capt and Pillai, volunteers who are willing to serve society, let them come forward and be the link between government and the people. I think this is not a problem which does not have solution. Only thing is that we should first realize there is a problem. And for every problem, there is a solution. Find out the right type of solution. So I'm still very hopeful that with a change of attitude, when the country, the nation is celebrating 75th anniversary of its independence, I am sure that a new administrative reforms will also be set in. Already, I will conclude, already the beginning is there. The Prime Minister himself is monitoring what is called the Karma Yogi scheme. He wants the Indian bureaucracy to keep itself well-oiled and fighting fit. All the state-of-art technologies they should know. They should know what is going on in the management field in the corporate world. Therefore, with the addition of Karma Yogi, I'm sure there'll be a sea change in the Indian bureaucracy, and then these problems will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. And Dr. Bose said that find a beneficiary and create the policies around him. Dr. Bose has mentioned that, yes, there's a gap between the policies which have been planned by the center, because it percolates to the state and then it goes to the district administration. And there is lots of gaps in between. And that's why the schemes or the policies which were framed by the central government is not giving those benefits which were supposed to reach to the end user. And there he says that because there are so many things in the democracy, but still the bureaucracy, one of the best bureaucracy in the world, India have, but still we require lots of changes. And he says that the Prime Minister is monitoring himself, and he's coming out with a new scheme of Karma Yogi, where all the bureaucrats have to be known or knowledgeable for what's happening today in this computerized world or the technology world, as well as what is happening to the corporates. So he's very confident that this will be changed. There will be a change. And he has also mentioned that the planning is from the very beginning. It's not the new thing, but only thing is the implementation is required. Although the Information and Broadcasting Ministry was developed and started very early, and the main role of the Information Broadcasting Ministry was to educate the people, even the grassroots people, about the schemes and the plannings and the policies of the government of India. But today, what is the situation? Everybody knows. But still, Dr. Bose says the present government is bent upon to come out with a proper and new schemes which will definitely benefit the grassroots, although we have to overall and we have to change many things. Thank you, Dr. Bose, for giving your initial remarks. Now I would like to go to the next guest. Our next guest is Captain K. Pillai. Captain Pillai is the former Kerala State Planning Board member. Captain Pillai joined Indian Navy as executive officer in 1968. Actively participated in 1971 war as commanding officer of the Indian naval ship Atul, attacked and crippled Pakistan submarine Harun. Later, he became head of the Department of Ship Technology, Cochin University. Captain Pillai was selected as UNESCO Fellow in Shipping Management. During that time, he visited 40 countries. He served as Panchayat member and Kerala State Planning Board member. Captain Pillai was president of Trivandrum Management Association and National Club. He served as consultant to several public and private companies. Captain Pillai received several national and international awards, including awards from Singapore government for outstanding contribution to sports and youth affairs, 4 awards from Government of India as Panchayat member. He was NORAD champion in World Skiing Championship held in Norway 1978. He has done, no, sorry. So Captain Pillai, welcome to our show. Yes, my mistake. Captain Pillai has done several television programs in Norway, Singapore, Asianet, CNBC, Doordarshan, Malaysia Manorama, and Janam. Captain Pillai published book called Development of Kerala. He wrote several articles in newspapers and magazine. Welcome, Captain Pillai, to our show. Captain Pillai, you have already heard what Dr. Bose said. Dr. Bose admitted one thing, that there are very good policies which were framed by the central government, but because the policies have to rooted through the state government and through the district administration, it loses its charm. The main object of the policy is not reaching. And he has given example that there was a survey done and the villagers or the agriculturists were not aware about the Manrega scheme. Even he says that the minimum support price, which has been declared by the central government, only 11 or 12% agriculturists are taking the advantage of that. Others are not, either they are not getting the scheme or they are not aware about that scheme. Now, we would like to know the central policies benefit to the grassroots. Captain K. Pillai, please.
Thank you, Lal Goel, and thank you, Dr. Bose. And I have to mention that when Dr. Bose was the collector of Kollam, I am from Kollam at that time, and Kollam district, he introduced a program called those days known as Kollam program. It was internationally, nationally known. And anybody was able to contact the district collector and convey his suggestions and also seek for help. And I also had the opportunity to work with him when he was the director of Nirmadi Kendra, and he made a drastic change in the concept of design of houses in Kerala, and he was recognized for this. Okay, I will come to 2 of the very important things you mentioned. One is the programs were created by our top intellectuals in New Delhi, and that was the best programs you can think. But unfortunately, as you put it, it doesn't reach the people to whom it was intended to. He showed the case of agriculture, farmers. And I was working with farmers. I was in charge of Kisan, Kerala Agricultural Farmers Association, and state level committee. I was there for some time. I have also got award as a model farmer for 3 years from the department. So I know the problems of the farmers because, as he put it correctly, the government scheme doesn't reach him. And the various departments who are in charge of that, including the agriculture officer down at the level of the panchayat, they don't take care. They don't think it is their duty to take this program to the people. On the other hand, I was in Indonesia, I was in China, and the panchayat level agriculture officer was responsible for increasing the productivity of each farmer. They have to give a report every month to the higher authorities how much productivity was achieved by each farmer in that panchayat. And in Kerala, there are 3,000 agricultural farmers, agriculture officers working here, but not even one is giving the report to the higher authorities, and it is not being monitored. So, as Dr. Anand put it, and one problem is the programs doesn't reach to whom it is intended to. Second thing is there is no monitoring from any department, and especially the district collector is a very key person. He doesn't monitor. He is so busy, and he got to listen to the ministers and who call him and to arrange the tour of the ministers. This is what I notice here. And take care of the ministers' tours. And rather he will spend more time for that than in monitoring these agricultural problems. So first problem is reaching these Government of India policies to the people. And second thing is the monitoring system is lacking. These are the two problems. Now, there are many programs I was working. For example, 230 programs of the government, and I made a small handbook in Malayalam myself, and all the 230 programs were with the website, and I have circulated about 2,000 copies, printed at my own personal expense, and I go and give it to the people all around the state. And I have made a PowerPoint presentation. I made Malayalam translated version, PowerPoint presentation of all these 230 programs, which is very important. I think about 20 programs I have selected, and I have made a 240 presentation in the last 6 years in all over Kerala. So first, I am trying to take this program to the people and at the ground level and the beneficiaries. Now, there are so many problems which you have already mentioned, and all the programs are very, very important and very, very good for the country. Now, while I was in UNESCO, I traveled around 40 countries around the world. And the most important program I liked is the last one, that is on 2nd July, Swanidhi program. Swanidhi program. This is providing 10,000 rupees to street vendors. I will say this is the greatest program the Government of India has implemented, because earlier we had Mudra scheme, and when the Mudra scheme was introduced, there is Tarun, Kishore, and there are 3 schemes, and lowest scheme is for 50,000 rupees loan, and the program says it will be given to anybody, those who go there to the bank, and they go with their Aadhaar card, ration card, and 2 photographs, and they will get it. But unfortunately, 90% of the applicants are rejected by most of our public sector banks. And I can give you clear evidence and cases, and I approached even the State Bank of India top authorities here. They are not at all helpful in this matter. And I have to say this with a lot of regret. And there is nobody. They are only interested in people like serving Malaya, Nirav Modi, and who are in Kerala. Malaya was given 900 crores without any security. And the same SBI is not willing to give 50,000 to a poor fellow, person, a woman selling vegetable or fish on the roadside. I have photographs, I have complaints, and this is the sad thing. Now, even after this was introduced in 2nd July, in India, 9 lakhs applications, 9,30,000 applications were received in these 2 months. And out of that, 3,30,000 were already given. But in my city, Trivandrum, the registration, there are 10,000 street vendors in this city, but only according to the corporation, the corporation ruled by Marxist Party, they have registered only 240 people. And even they don't know about the scheme, and they haven't got this 10,000 rupees loan. So this is the sad affairs now existing. Now, as I told you, the greatest scheme, there is before this scheme, this was introduced, I made several representation to the ministry. Even I met finance minister personally, Finance Minister Chidambaram, when he was the minister, and requested him about this giving 10,000 rupees as a loan. And he said it will be looked into, nothing happened. And it's only happened in 2nd July 2020. Now, before the situation was that if these poor street vendors, they were getting loan from a shark who was charging 3,650% interest. Remember, 3,650% interest, which is never heard in outside India. And every day he gave 100 rupees as loan in the morning, and he give 90 rupees in the morning as loan, and in the evening he collect 100 rupees. That means 10% interest per day, per day. I repeat, per day. And this is even now going on all over Kerala, and it is maintained by Marxist party, especially. You go to any, I was earlier, I was a member of the Marxist party. I was a member of the Marxist party panchayat member, and I tried to stop it. It didn't work out, and it didn't work out. Only now it is somewhat the program has come up so that at least they can claim 10,000 rupees under this Swanidhi program. Another program of the government which I liked it most is the Gen 10 program. That is, you can walk into the hall in the bank and you can provide your identity card and the photographs and ask for a Gen 10 program. But again, it is so unfortunate that it didn't work out very well. All over India, there are 5 crores people were benefited, but especially in Kerala, the number of people who got this scheme is very little compared to the applicant. And the third project, what I was impressed by me was the PMAY, Prime Minister's Awas Yojana. During my journey around USA, Japan, I mentioned especially USA and Japan because they are the rich countries. And in USA, there are every state I go, I could see people sleeping under the pavement, because under the pavement where there is, when the sewage is running, there is fumes coming up, so it heat up the pavements, and the poor people, homeless people are sleeping all over USA, and there are at least 3 million people in the USA without homes. And I am so proud to be an Indian now because our government, especially Modi has come up and introduced this Prime Minister's Awas Yojana. Again, I am sad to say that state like Kerala, the implementation is very, very poor. And they were afraid that if this project had, and the people come to know that it is a Prime Minister program, they will go and vote BJP and they will lose one vote.
Captain Pillai, I have to stop you here. Our program is a positive media. We never criticize any of the party. We never name any party. For us, everyone is good. You can give your views, but don't name the party and party, so that everyone will have the same views. Then the viewers will decide what to do. Yes, Captain.
Thank you very much.
Please.
I will conclude with a sentence.
Yes, please.
First program, Swanidhi program, Gen 10 program, PMAY program, then our Prime Minister's program for insurance, that is 12 rupees insurance. So I am trying to work on these things. These are the things we have to reach to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Pillai, for giving your views. Although I have to say something to Captain Pillai, I am sorry for that, but this is the policy of our media. We never give anybody, we never allow anyone to take the name of any political leader or, yes, we know that what is happening today, everybody knows. So now what Dr. Pillai said, Captain Pillai said is that what Dr. Bose has mentioned was the truth of the day today, that the schemes are coming, following from the center, but it's not reaching to the grassroots. He has applauded Dr. Bose, and he's mentioned when Dr. Bose was the collector of Kollam, he has come out with the scheme in which anyone can walk in and meet the collector anytime and put his grievances. And he says that he's associated with his Nimriti scheme, and that those schemes which has started at that time And he says that that was a remarkable thing when the policies were been reaching to the grassroots. But he says the problem has been because whenever the planning was done by the center government, the state government, and especially if the state government belongs to the opposition party, they try to hinder it either intentionally or with some other motive. And that's why the things, the policies, the benefits of the policies are not reaching to the grassroots. He has also given one example of the agriculture officers, the panchayat agriculture officers of his state, where he says that they are not aware about the schemes which have been introduced by the central government. But he says the same thing which he has seen in Indonesia and China. There, the agriculture development officer is supposed to increase the produce of a agriculturist, and he is supposed to submit the report directly to the administration. So the administration knows what is happening in that particular panchayat. But in India, there is no such type of monitoring is there. So that is what Captain Pillai says. He has told about the Mudra scheme, and he says, although the Mudra scheme is very good, very easy to obtain the loan, but the fact is that these banks, PSU banks, are not interested to provide the loans. They are only interested to provide the loans to those big corporate houses. I will not name, but what he said is those who have already ran away or whom they can pay, but they are not interested to give to the small farmers who really require. And he praised the 2nd July initiative by the government, this present government, central government, where they have come out with this scheme for the street vendors. And he says that 10,000 rupees is a very remarkable thing. Although he still mentioned in that his government, the state government, is still not doing the justice with this particular scheme. So basically, what Captain Pillai says is that whatsoever the good policies of the central government has been made for the public at large, it is not be executed in many of the states because of some ulterior motives, or even if it is going down, the local officers, whether the collectors or down below, even the agriculture development officers, they are not interested to implement those schemes, and that's why the benefit is not reaching to the grassroots. Thank you, Captain Pillai, for giving your frank views. Now I would like to go to our next guest. He's Dr. P.K. Abraham. Dr. P.K. Abraham is the turnaround strategist and inspiring leader. Dr. Abraham is the CEO of True Coat Paints Kochi. Dr. Abraham was General Manager of Fertilizer and Chemical Travancore, popularly known as FACT Limited. He was Managing Editor and Managing Director of Rashtra Deepika, which is the first Malayalam newspaper. He's the director of the famous MacFest Business School in Kerala and Dean of Xavier Institute of Management, Bangalore. He is an icon of success for many leaders in media today. People who had worked with him had flourished in their career in various fields. He encouraged warriors and worked with them to revive the project successfully. Welcome, Dr. Abraham, on our show. Dr. Abraham, you have heard what Dr. Bose has mentioned as well as Captain Pillai has mentioned. Dr. Bose categorically said that there are very good policies done by the framed by the central government, but it is not reaching to the grassroots. And he has given examples of the Manrega as well as the minimum support price for the agriculture. Captain Pillai was very candid, and he has mentioned very clearly, according to Captain Pillai, the schemes which have been framed by the central government have been not implemented intentionally by the state governments where the opposition is there. I will not name any state nor any party, but he is very clear, and he says that is one of the reasons that it is not reaching to the grassroots. And he has also mentioned there that even if the state government is giving that, the local bodies, officers, they are not interested to provide it to the beneficiaries or the grassroots or the end miles. And they are giving only to the big corporate houses the benefits of those schemes. Now, we would like to know, because you you have worked with the management, you are you are a strategist, and you are still working as in a corporate sector. We would like to know from your side, the industry side, views about the central policies, the benefit for the grassroots. Dr. P.K. Abraham, please.
Thank you, Lalji, editor, and also my distinguished fellow panelists, Dr. Bose, Captain Pillai, and my old friend from media, Arun Lakshman. I would like to mention about an outstanding success story of government policy at the grassroots. Because I have been a part and parcel of this grassroots level work for about 30 years. After all, for the first 30 years of my career, I was working at the grassroots level in an industry which was working in the villages among the farmers. I would, when the editor introduced me, he said that I was a general manager of fertilizers and chemicals, Travancore Limited. It is a huge industry at that time, one of the pioneers in the fertilizer field. And it was administered by the Food and Agricultural Ministry. And perhaps that was the first ministry which was implementing the policies directly beneficial or to be benefited for the grassroots level people. Grassroots means the first line. They were working for the development of agriculture. And as you know, we had outstanding implementers and administrators and managers at that time. The government of India, the minister was the legendary C. Subramaniam, who is responsible for the introducing the Green Revolution and making it successful in India through companies like fertilizers and chemicals, Rastriya Chemicals, Coromandel Fertilizers, a large number, about 10-15 companies, manufacturing industrial companies, in which I was working. That's why I said I have a first line experience of working at grassroots level. Mr. C. Subramanian, we have very legendary IAS officers heading like B. Shivaraman IAS, Mr. M.K.K. Nair IAS. I'm sure Dr. Ananda Bose must be directly knowing them. Then we had people like field workers, my boss like Pushparaj and all that. These people directly translated the government of India policy to develop the agriculture sector. And through this ministry, the Food and Agriculture Ministry was working directly for the upliftment of the farmers. And you know what is the result? For the last 50 years or 60 years, from a very, very poor, starving country, very, very food deficit country. When we started, the total food production of India was somewhere around 60 or 70 million tons. It has reached now 300 million tons. Your wheat and your rice, they are all grass. That is why when Goel said about grassroots level, these grass were developed and we became a hugely food surplus country. And this was all reaching the farmer. We were working at that time with the farmers in the remote place, the first line areas we were working in all the states in India. And then the agriculture was developed and there was policies to develop the farmers, free supply of inputs, subsidized supply of chemical fertilizers, high yielding varieties, water, electricity, advice, and then procurement and the minimum support price and all that to benefit the farmers. Of course, as Dr. Bose said, it may not have been reached everywhere, but that minimum MSP was one of the cornerstones of the agricultural development and making India food sufficient. Not only agriculture, the primary sector, where the agriculture, you know, as everyone knows, agriculture includes animal husbandry, your milk production, your egg production, your fisheries, your various crops, everything is included. Fruits, in all this, India is either number 1 or number 2 or one of the number 3s. And we are one of the 5 countries now to in a position to export food. And that was because the government of India policies, right from Jawaharlal Nehru times and accelerated in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and implemented in the field by the extension workers, the poor, the so-called gram sevaks and the first line manufacturers, workers like us. And they all benefited. Oh, okay, it is not the biggest benefit was reaped by the middle and the big farmers, the kulaks as you call, but the trickling effect, the trickle down effect, or when the boat rises, when the waves rises, the big ships and the big boats will rise along with the small boats will also rise. And that has created actually a kind of rural prosperity and a farmer's prosperity. And all these crops and other things are because of that. And along with that, there was another system, another policy by the government of India, again with the same ministry. At that time, the ministry was Food and Agriculture. The surplus food was taken over by the Food Corporation, and we had one of the excellent public distribution system through which grains were supplied to the needy and the common people, the grassroots level people. One, in many times free, and sometimes at a very, very subsidized rate. Even today, it is going on. In fact, the biggest weapon we are fighting against COVID-19 is our food supply. We have enough food to supply to all the people, the downtrodden and the marginal people. So that was the PDS system was that. Okay, along with that, the government's policy at that time was supply water, supply sanitation, supply health facilities, supply primary schools. All these were there, and it is continued. And with the liberalization and the LPG policy in 1990, you know that the industrialization was caught up. The public sector, till that time, everything was under public sector, where, of course, there are a lot of management problems and there was a lot of inefficiencies. But by liberalization, privatization, and globalization, the entire economic development scenario was shifted, accelerated. And we could see that the industries have taken over. Even earlier that there was huge industries like your steel mills, your fertilizer mills, your cement factories, your tractor factories. So many industries were developed, but it has given a global acceleration by the LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And it continued later in our NDA 1 under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the pace of reaching the government policies, government benefits, government planning, government implementation to the grassroots accelerated. And it was taken over by the next governments like the Manmohan Singh's 2 governments, UPA 1 and UPA 2. And as Dr. Bose said, of course, the Manrega was there. And that was one of the outstanding activities of the government, both governments. And it was started. It was so good that when Modi ji came, he accepted that and he implemented that. And it is a very good scheme. Of course, there are certain places and people who may not be getting the entire benefits. So this acceleration is taking place to the level of reaching the poor people, the grassroots level. But the COVID has dislocated the entire process. And of course, the government of India under the Prime Minister is ably warding off that. And this has resulted in a disconnect, actually now. Because in the rural areas and in the urban poor areas, the slum areas, you can see about 10 to 15 to 20% of our people, maybe about 20 crore of our people unemployed, they are poor, they are not getting adequate benefit from the policies of the government of India. So now it is the time, perhaps under the guidance or the advice and mentoring of people like Dr. Bose, to address this issue, the present issue at the grassroots level, both in the villages as well as in the towns. are that there are a substantial portion of people at the grassroots. Again, grassroots. We are thinking of policies to benefit grassroots. They are poor. They are poor because they have no income. They have no income because they have no employment. They have no employment because they have no skill and they have no opportunities to get employed. So the government should immediately address to that with their 22.5 billion PM Care fund, which is 1.78 trillion Indian rupees, which is allocated and discussed, declared by Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman after Prime Minister declared the first lockdown. So this money, a part of this money should go for helping this grassroots level, say 15 to 20 crore of people, and they should be recruited probably an army who can. These unemployed should be immediately brought under a scheme wherein they can be recruited, they can be put into a third army. The third army can immediately get a training in fighting and advising against COVID, and they should be provided minimum income by direct transfer, and they should be utilized for propagating the fight against the COVID, and that should solve on the one hand the surplus people, the young people, the educated people who are now loitering, who are now starving in the villages because the agriculture cannot absorb all the people. In the towns, the people who have lost as we said, the grassroots level people. And then after 3 or 4 months, or they should be deployed in the fight against the COVID. They should be the first time. They should work with the first time people. And in 6 to 1 year, by the time the COVID is solved, the COVID onslaught is successfully we have overcome. These people should be meanwhile selectively put into their skill development, and the new enterprises which we can create in the place can absorb them, and that will be the best solution to reach the grassroots level and uplift them along with the other 70% people. The 70% people are already uplifted. They don't need much of
okay, thank you. Thank you.
The grassroots should be uplifted immediately, and I invite the
thank you. Thank you, Doc.
And the influence and the leadership of people like Dr. Bose for that. Have a thinking on that, how to utilize these people. The grassroots level people now starving, they may be getting a little money by direct transfer or a little extra grain and all that, but that is only for a very temporary period. To employ them on a permanent basis for nation building, utilize them in this manner by creating a third army for constructive development of our country. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for giving your views. And according to Dr. Ibrahim, the grassroots were getting benefits earlier. The policies from the post-independence till the 80s, late 80s. But he says when the liberation has come to the country, at that time, the advantage has gone only to the industries, and the schemes could not reach to the grassroots, and that's why. Otherwise, he said that earlier we have started our journey as an independent country with a very less amount of food reserves, but today we are surplus food reserves with us, and that is because all those schemes which were planned at that time used to reach to the grassroots level. But according to Dr. Ibrahim, from the 90s, when the liberation has started, those schemes have started going, or the taken advantage by the big industrial houses. It was not going directly, and it was not reaching directly to the public at large at the grassroots level. But he says the plus point is that we have a sufficient food with us, and that's why we can very well provide them to the grassroots workers, and we are providing. But he says right now what the government should do is that they should employ the trained army, which he termed as a trained army, which will go to the villages and train them about the COVID thing and try to educate them about the COVID problems. And once the COVID is over, they will, the government should absorb them as a skill developed persons or whatsoever they can do, so that the employment will be not there and the money will be there and it will reach there. And he says, although the government is transferring the money, direct transfers, etc., which is very good, but still lots of scope is there which can be done. Thank you, Dr. Abraham, for giving your views. Now I would like to go to our last guest. He is Mr. Arun Lakshman. Mr. Lakshman is the director of Center for Policy and Development Studies. He is a freelance journalist and was former Kerala resident editor of The Pioneer. Welcome, Mr. Arun Lakshman, to our show. Mr. Lakshman, you have heard what Dr. Bose, Captain Pillai, as well as Dr. Abraham has spoken. And almost all have agreed in one point, that the policies which were made in the center were not executed properly, although Dr. Abraham's views were a bit different than what Dr. Bose and Captain Pillai said. But the Dr. Abraham has mentioned that these policies which the government were framing earlier were reaching to the public till 1990. Although Dr. Abraham, I can mention one thing. I remember there was a media report that one of the former Prime Minister of India mentioned that if the government spend 1 rupee, only 16 paisa reaches to the grassroots. I would not like to name, but I think you all know. So it means at that time also, it was before 1991, the liberation. It means at that time also, the policies were not reaching to the grassroots level. This is just, I'm telling you because this was told by none other than the former Prime Minister of India. Now I would like to know from Mr. Arun Lakshman, the central policies for the benefit of grassroots. Mr. Arun Lakshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal Goelji, for inviting me to this program. My fellow panelists, Dr. Ananda Bose, Captain Pillai, and PK Abraham, a big hello to all of you. Actually, I will like to start from where you spoke, Mr. Goel, that a former Prime Minister has told in 1986 Kalhandi in Orissa that when 1 rupee scheme is being transferred, it will reach 15 paisa. And later the Planning Commission chairman has corrected that it's 16 paisa. It was like that. I don't want to name. And another Prime Minister has told that if the government is properly monitoring it, if I spend 1 rupee, the 100 paisa will reach to the grassroots or to the last beneficiary. And I think that after digitalization and with the emphasis on digital administration, I think government can monitor how the schemes are being properly implemented or reach the grassroots. I was a working journalist for several years, even I'm a working journalist basically. And as a working journalist, I had the opportunity to study the issues related to the tribal community and the fishermen community, 2 specific issues I used to study and write about. When Dr. Abraham was in Kannur and he knows about that, I was basically from Kannur district of Kerala. It's the northernmost part of Kerala. And the Kerala Chief Minister comes from that place. Several political leaders have come from that place. And there is a tribal colony in Kannur district. That colony, when we did a study on that, we found in 1996 that government is spending 5 crore rupees per year to a scheme. And when we went to the collectorate and collected material, it was the money was transferred. When we went to that colony, we found that the poor tribes could get only some betel leaves or tobacco leaves, nothing else. That was the way the planning was held those days. Now coming back to Dr. Ananda Bose, what he said, any government is best when the administration is proper, or how the civil servants or bureaucrats properly execute the schemes. That is the one thing the government should monitor properly to see to it that the government schemes and government projects are reaching to the grassroots. Here, I will take a word from Captain Pillai, who is being monitoring the Government of India schemes across the state. I know him, he has been running around with the schemes, monitoring, creating awareness to the people. But unfortunately, what he said is very true. Recently, we did a webinar. In the webinar, a senior officer of a public sector bank was present. And when we had a discussion on the openly, he was telling a lot of schemes about this government of India schemes, Mudra loans, and all the stuff for intended for the public. But unfortunately, our experience is that the bankers at the grassroots level, even 50,000 rupees, they are not at all giving that money, giving very flimsy reasons and rejecting the loan applications of poor women and poor people who are into it. And another thing, during our social life, we used to, in our hometown, we wanted the fishermen community to get, there are mechanized boats available for the fishing nets. You don't think that it is a huge money earner for the fisherman and everyone will be beneficial. But when we made a proper project report and approach all, there were those days it was Prime Minister PMRY scheme, Prime Minister Roska scheme, and there was no collateral was required. When we went and approved the bankers, they used to tell us that the one flimsy reason or one small reason and then reject it automatically. But as we were into social life and we did pressurize for that, ultimately we got 5 banks supporting the project and around 30 lakh rupees was given to us, 25 lakh rupees was given to us. I mean the fishermen community, 30 people, they got the project, and when they went with the project to the sea, in 4 to 5 years time, the whole money was repaid and they are all living a very comfortable life. I mean to say that actually our classmates were working at a lower level in the banks those days, and they used to tell me, you should put pressure on these managers because there are in this small town of Talseri itself, there are people who have NPS. There are big business people who are not paying, returning their money or the loan they have taken. But you should convince the managers that the small people, I mean the daily bread earners, they will definitely return the money. And actually it was what happened. The fishermen community, they took this loan within 5 years. There was 7-year moratorium period, but in 5 years time, the whole loan was repaid and they settled themselves in life properly. I mean to say that, as Dr. Pillai was saying, so Captain Pillai was saying, these bankers are rejecting our government of India's well-intended schemes like Mudra, the loan schemes. Mudra is one of the best schemes project provided or projected by the government of India, but unfortunately, it is not percolating properly to the grassroots level. And this is the reason is the local level banker, he thinks that if you give the loan and the loan is not properly repaid, it will affect his retirement and his benefits. That's the one reason he is not properly giving this loan to the beneficiaries. These two things I have mentioned. And thirdly, about this street vendor scheme, that's one of the excellent schemes Government of India has brought in. And even that scheme, we used to talk to people. A lot of people are not at all properly aware of that. And even in Trivandrum Corporation, where I live now, people have not yet got the amount of the number of beneficiaries is far low than what was expected of the Government of India project. And now coming to Jan Dhan scheme, I think the Jan Dhan scheme has turned a major level into the country, because I think more than 1/3 of the population, women of the country, have benefited by this Jan Dhan schemes. The loans, the bankers, they were not at all connected digitally or through banking. Now they have all almost 1/3 of the population have at least connected with the banking methods. So I think that's a good scheme. The government properly implemented it. And more than all these things, if there is a proper monitoring, and if the Karmayogi scheme, which is directly being monitored by the Prime Minister, is properly executed with the bureaucrats getting the financing and the bureaucrats on the toes about what the schemes has to be implemented, I think the Government of India schemes will be largely percolated down to the grassroots, ultimately benefiting the people of the country in a larger level.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lakshman, for giving your views. And according to Mr. Lakshman, there are schemes which were earlier not been implemented, and he has given the example of even that rupee which I have mentioned. He said the former Prime Minister mentioned only 15 paisa, but the Planning Commission has changed it to 16 paisa. But he says now, because of the digitized time, if 1 rupee goes, 100 paisa reached means the 1 rupee reached directly to the beneficiary. But he says there are many instances where the schemes which are very beneficial for the grassroots level people, they are not reaching because of the resistance by the local administrative officers. And he has given an example of the bank, that the bank's managers are not ready to give extend the loans, even this Mudra scheme or any other, because they have a problem. They says that in case if the loan will not be repaid, then their career will be finished, or post retirement they will be in trouble. So basically this is a very good thing. I am sure if the government will take care of this particular aspect, that if any loan will be given under any schemes like Mudra scheme or the other street vendor scheme, then the manager should not be held responsible. If there is a clear-cut instructions to be given to the banks, then I am sure then these two schemes at least can be implemented properly to the grassroots level. Secondly, what Mr. Lakshman says, that there are many other schemes, but he is very happy with the Karm Yogi scheme. He says because it is directly under the supervision of our Honorable Prime Minister. He says if this scheme is implemented properly, it means all the bureaucracy will be working day and night to implement the policies which has been framed by the central government. Thank you, Mr. Lakshman, for giving your views. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Bose. Dr. Bose, I have two questions for you, although both the questions are interconnected. The first is a general question and the other is a specific question. In the democracy, people are supreme. In India, the constitution has been made by we the people of India. It is the responsibility of the government to work for the people, but we see that the government policies are not reaching to the end users in the desired measure. In other terms, the problem is the last mile connectivity. The specific question, now this is the general question. The specific question to you is that as a responsible IAS officer, and which everyone has vouched here, those are our panelists and earlier also, and we know about you very much now, that as a responsible IAS officer, you have initiated administrative reforms to ensure that the people can access the government easily and get their things done, which Captain Pillai has also mentioned. You were also awarded for these initiatives many times. Can you share your experiences in this field with the viewers? Both the answers, general as well as specific, but please be brief. Thank you, Dr. Bose. Please unmute yourself.
I'll first take up the general question and would like to illustrate it with two incidents. One from the life of Mahatma Gandhi in India, and the other from the life of Mao Zedong in China. When the Temple M3 proclamation was made by the Travancore Maharaja, that is allowing the untouchables to enter temples along with the others, Gandhiji came down to Trivandrum. Diwan of the time said this is the most progressive legislation in the world which ensures social justice. Gandhiji smilingly said, is it known to the Nayadis of the state, that is the lowest of the lowest, the lower caste, the nomads. What he meant is, unless this governmental policy is going to help the poorest of the poor, the Antyodaya approach, unless it's going to benefit the lowest, the lowliest, and the least of society, it has no meaning. A similar situation during the Cultural Revolution, all the bigwigs, the intellectuals, professionals, writers, artists of the and the party bosses were all invited for a very important top discussion. They knew it will be none other than Mao himself going to make some very momentous pronouncement. At the nick of the time, the curtain was raised and the VIP was on the stage. That was the head sweeper of the Beijing municipality. He wanted them to know that all your policies, all the party programs is of no avail unless it helps the common man. I think that should be the framework for this government also. Your general question was, in democracy, people are supreme, but how came that even though they are the framers of the constitution, how came that their interests are not protected by government? I think the change should be there. That in this country, where we the people have framed the constitution, which has given the officers and the ministers the authority to be dispensers of India's destiny, their first duty should be to the people, their second duty should be to the people, their third duty should be to the people. I think this is what has been highlighted by all the other panelists. We should have a people-oriented, people-first approach. And this present government has even declared it, the people first, India first approach. I think the approach, change in attitude, change in approach is very basic to all these discussions. If democracy has to be good for the people, as somebody jokingly said, today democracy is government of the people, OFF, by the people, BYE, and for the leaders. If that should go, the change of attitude should be there. That is my answer to your general question. And secondly, about specific questions about my initiatives in this, I would first of all say, with all humility, it's not my initiative. I only happen to be a kind of a medium for certain changes. And when I also take into account your request to be brief, I will certainly be brief. So when I was sub-collector, that is, I started my career in a place called Kasaragod. I was hardly 25, 26 at that time. An old lady came to my room and she said a lot of things about the requirements in her village. And my personal staff showed signs that she's a little crazy. They showed like this. I listened to her and I said, okay, I'll look into that. She got agitated. She said, look into that, look into that, look into that. Your predecessor also said, look into that, look into that. When are you going to stop looking into that? So I thought she may have a point. I took the car and went to the village. That is a settlers village, very underdeveloped village, Rajapuram in the Kasaragod district. I found that all that she said were locally relevant issues. There are no roads, there are no schools, there are no electricity, no water supply. She was almost the unacknowledged MLA of the place, though an old lady. Then I thought, maybe something would be done. I called all the officers and told them these are the things that are required there. All the officers said, we have money for this. Then why don't you do that? They said, nobody asked us. There is lack of coordination. The first Gramotsava was launched as an accelerated rural development project in Rajapuram, which was an outstanding success. The government of India, government of Kerala, planning board, conducted a study and they said, this has reduced corruption. This has brought the governmental schemes to the doorsteps of the people. Here is a case of administration goes to the doorsteps of the people. And there is a lot of people's participation. And they said, this is the first instance of people's planning in the state. To cut the long story short, this developmental initiative was recommended for replication all the panchayats in the state. That is number one. Number two, Capt. Pillai has hinted at it. When I was district collector, a new scheme was launched, file to the field. File to the field. File represents the bureaucracy. Field represents the common man. There is a hiatus, not a gap. There is a hiatus between them. This scheme was meant to transfer in a particular 2-3 days. The local school will be converted into a miniature collectorate. All officers will be there. People can come there, get their grievances rectified. Development programs will be launched. This also was taken up by the government of Kerala first, and then the government of India for replication in other places. And the third one was houses for all. Now the Prime Minister has declared it. Low-cost houses, Nirmati Kendra. This was set up in the district when I was district collector. I was only responsible for this. I was only a medium. This was all done by all my officers and non-officials. All these things, initiatives were done not by officers alone. The non-officials were also actively implemented. When people came together, a lot of change could be done. As Browning says, when you mix two colors, you get a third color. When you mix two sounds, you get a star. In government also, when you mix things together appropriately, you get a star. I think individual initiative, collective initiative, administrative innovation, administrative reforms, I think that holds the key to taking the programs and policies of the government to the grassroots level. I think my humble experience has been that no need to blame government, no need to blame the system. Better light a candle than curse the darkness. Every officer in this country is capable of this. Every officer in this country has a potential. And once the officer takes the lead, people will automatically be with you. I find the strongest link in this governmental system in the whole country is the weakest person. I think the speed of the fleet depends on the speed of the last boat. The strength of a chain depends on the weakest link. Therefore, let us focus on the involvement of the people. I think that is going to be the answer to all these ills. Once people-centric approach is taken by the government and people are given an opportunity to participate in the development process, I am sure our concept of regulatory administration should change to development administration, and officers should move together, hand-holding with the common man. I think that is what the Prime Minister is also intending to. I think in that context, I find this Karma Yogi scheme will initiate a sea change in our administrative ethos. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Bose, for giving your views and a very detailed or brief, both the things, your answer. But I'm sure that the viewers got the very clear-cut reply what I have asked you. And I'm sure that officers like you can change the country and can definitely, that central policies can reach to the grassroots if the officers take the initiative, as you mentioned. Captain Pillai, are you there, or shall I move to the other panelist? We can't see you, Captain Pillai. Okay, so I'm going to the, I think some problem is there. I will go to Dr. Abraham. Dr. Abraham, you have heard what Dr. Bose has mentioned and everybody. Now tell us, what is the solution? Because we are in a federalism where the state government elections are separate, the central government states elections are separate. We cannot guarantee, no one can guarantee that all the political parties will remain the same, whether in the center or the state. It means that there will be always a difference of opinion. Now, we have noticed now that the central government is making a particular policy after doing lots of discussion or doing the research. It is not been implemented to the by the state government for whatsoever reason. So do you think we require a change in the constitution, our democratic system, so that ultimately the sufferer is a grassroots person? For him, whether the center or the state, he wants his basic amenities, which we are not providing today because of the tussle between the state or the central government. That is one of the reasons which Captain Pillai has highlighted. Now, we would like to know from you, Dr. Abraham, as an industrial person, do you think that we should change our constitution or the democratic system, at least that the policies which the central government wants to implement should reach directly to the public, the grassroots, where there should be no intervention of the state government? Please be brief for the answer, because we have 2 more minutes to take that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. There is no need of any change of the constitution, because our constitution is changed to take care of the needs of the people. I mean the constitutional change of the brought in the 80s at Rajiv Gandhi's time of implementing the Panchayati Raj. Now, so far, or mostly by tradition and by implementation, the policies are decided and implemented on a top-down manner. That is central, then you have the state, then you have the district, then you have the grassroots level, the common, the panchayats. But that was changed by the Panchayati Raj, at least in the constitution or in the rule, but it is not properly implemented yet. They have the old hangover of looking up for the direction, looking up for the money or plan and all that. That means the top down. Now, mostly it is being changed. I can give you an excellent example of how it is changed and what is the success. Now, what I am saying is that instead of top down, it should be bottom up. That is, the Gram Panchayat should decide what do they want. And once they decide, they may be advised by experts. That's a different matter. For example, they wanted to take an estimate or a plan and all that, they may need some technical advice. That technical advice they are capable of doing. So the Gram Panchayat should, that is where you have the grassroots. The grassroots or Gram Panchayat should decide what they want. And then their funds, and once their plan is there, they should be advised by the district collector or district council, and it should go to the center where the funds are there. because the Gram Panchayat has very little income or funds. So it should, once it is approved, directly the funds should go to them.
Okay. So according to Dr. Ibrahim, the Gram Panchayat should decide, and the funds it should come directly from the central government, which I think now they are doing in many of the cases. Captain Pillai, you are there. I can see you now. If you are there, I just want a brief answer of yours. What are your suggestions? Because now the time is very short. What are your suggestions, if any, to the government, so that the implementation can be done and the grassroots person should get the benefits of the central government policies? Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Captain Pillai, please unmute yourself. Captain Pillai, no, I think there is some problem. I will go to Mr. Arun Lakshman. I am asking the same question to you. Is there
okay, can you hear now?
Yeah, okay, I can hear Captain Pillai. Yes, please tell me. What are your suggestions?
Hello?
Yes, tell me.
I have some problem.
Yeah, please say now. Yes, Captain Pillai. No, Mr. Arun Lakshman, you just say any suggestions to the government so that this problem will sort it out, and the grassroots fellow will get the benefit of the central policies.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. I think that, as I told you earlier, the banker, maybe the manager of the bank branch is the ultimate person to sanction a loan. And he doesn't want to, he is not in a position not to give the loan. There is no point, he doesn't want to give the loan, but he is not given the loan, or is reluctant to give the loan because he faces the problem post-retirement. He will be some, that if government is properly taking care of, that he is not being harassed, that will be, there will be a difference in his approach, which will benefit ultimately the beneficiary or the common man. That's one thing. Secondly, the proper monitoring by the government of India or the bureaucracy. There is a district collector and down district sub collector. No? That level, if we properly monitor and get the proper feedback from the grassroots, we have a Panchayat system of Panchayat Raj is properly implemented to the Gram level, Gram Panchayat level. And if there is a feedback is coming properly from that level, there are elected representatives. They can give the proper feedback about the people's needs, about the people's desires. And if that is coming back to the government and government take action on that, then the system can be mostly fine-tuned for the benefit of the common man and the common people, and that almost all the government schemes, just like the Prime Minister said, 1 rupee to 100 paise. There's no low.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arun. Now Captain Pillai is back with us. Yes, so Captain Pillai, just what is your suggestion to the government, if any, so that the grassroots will get all the benefits what the central government wants to give in a very short yeah.
I will say I had the opportunity to work with Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. Now, if there is a telephone call to a bureaucrat, he got to answer it within 3 bells. If he doesn't pick up the phone in 3 bells, the 4th will go to the Prime Minister, and he will not be in the chair next day. Now, here, what I see in India, the problem is I go through various directories and websites given by bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats. And when you call that number, the reply is the phone number no more exists. So all these bureaucrats, including the district collector, cannot be contacted. Now, remember, Dr. Ananda Bose was in Kollam in
Captain Pillai, we are paucity of time. Your suggestion, please.
Suggestion is the government department, all the bureaucrats, especially gazetted officers, they must pick up the phone when there is a call, and they must, otherwise there must be system to answer every phone call to note down the problem of the people.
Okay, thank you, Captain Pillai. So today you have seen the experts in their field that they have given the opinion that there are lots of very, very good policies has been framed by the central government, but it is not reaching to the grassroots because of the bureaucratic problems, because of the some state governments reluctance, as well as some junior people, the agriculture development officer, or the bank managers, they are not interested to do for some reasons. So according to all of them, they have mentioned very clearly that now the time has changed, and very soon the government, our Honorable Prime Minister, who is doing this new policy where he's going to review about all the bureaucracy. Once it will be done and the revamp of the bureaucracy will be done, definitely the change will come and the central policies will reach to the grassroots. With this positive note, I must say thanks to all of our esteemed guests. And today's program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Saroka News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring every day some topic which is impacting the general public. And tomorrow our topic is COVID-19 impact on hotels. Yes, on hotels. And we have a very elite panel tomorrow. And we have Mr. Rajiv Agrawal, Managing Director, Brajwasi Group, Mathura. We have Mr. Vikram Kamath, Founder, Chairman, the Wits Kamath Group, Mumbai. We have Mr. Amit Jain, Managing Director, Hotel Sheetal Regency, Mathura. We have Mr. Sameer Dharkar, Managing Director, Absolute Hotel Services, India and Subcontinent, Mumbai. And we have Mr. Sonal Agrawal, Director, Hotel Abhinandan, Mathura. So please tune in tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And we would like to also inform you that GYAN presents NLP certification in 6 days. You can become an associate practitioner of NLP. Sessions will be conducted on Zoom platform by Vriddhi Institute, Bangalore. Certification from ANLP India. Next batch begins on 11 September 2020. 6 days, 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. 50% discount for GYAN associate students. Contact details are in the bottom strip below here in the screen. As well as GYAN presents Sociologist Academy's workshop on research methodology. You will get trained to understand and execute research projects, gain ability to gather and interpret data for business decisions, will be enabled to make scientific publications free for GYAN associate members. Date 11 to 13 September 2020. Contact 9740668967. I repeat, 9740668967. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Bose. Thank you, Captain Pillai. Thank you, Dr. Abraham. And thank you, Mr. Arun Lakshman, for joining us. And thank you all the viewers for viewing our show at 10:30 a.m.